Hello and welcome back to Read Becca for my weekend reading. And let's fly through this because I'm running a little behind on filming. And usually I'm done in the early afternoon. We're heading toward late afternoon and I want to finish this up so I can go return books to the library and pick up some more books because I have a hold waiting for me. So let's dive right into my catch up on everything I read, everything I'm currently reading, and everything I'm looking forward to reading. I don't have a ton to say about my books this week, so hopefully this will be kind of a quick one. First book I finished is Best Wishes, Warmest Regards, the story of Schitt's Creek by Eugene and Daniel Levy. And it's a coffee table book. So this is one of those cases where it's, how do you rate something like this? As a coffee table book, this is a really great coffee table book. It's a 5-star coffee table book. So do I rate it 5 stars? As an actual book, I probably won't remember it, and it didn't add too much to my life, but it was very wonderful, and as a fan of the show, it was really delightful to read and see behind the scenes. So obviously this is a coffee table book about the show Schitt's Creek, which is something I love so much, and so I was really delighted to spy this on the shelf at the library when I was walking through to the graphic novels. And it's so well done because they incorporated fan art throughout, and they really made an effort to include sort of community experiences or moments that the community surrounding the show are really engaged with them. And here's an example. There's lots of cartoony art throughout, and it's all fan art, so I picked this one because obviously it's the books. The books were very iconic from the show. They made up entire fake books throughout. You can see at the beginning, here's some more fan art, map of the town, and obviously all throughout it's just got great pictures. There's a whole section surrounding outfits, Dan's sweaters. They have all of them laid out. They have a bunch of Moira's outfits from each episode. They do go through a very brief summary of every episode and then talk through each episode in more detail. Starts with bios from the actors talking about their character. So it has all those standard elements of behind the scenes and meeting the actors, as well as really getting into the heart of the show. And so I just love that aspect of it. I think it really captured the spirit, especially if you have seen the short documentary. There was, I can't even remember what it was called, but there was a brief documentary after the show finished, and they took a look back on it and got a lot of the behind the scenes stuff that is also in here. So I don't think this is going to be super fresh if you've seen that, but it was a delight to read. I have been kind of wanting to go back and revisit the show. I did only watch it, I think, in 2021, so yeah, it is still fresh in my mind, but I've been pondering going back to it, and I think this may have pushed me to go restart watching it because I love the show. Next, I read The Jasmine Throne by Tasha Suri. This was fantastic. I don't really know how to classify it, though. It's not really epic fantasy. There's not entirely world-ending stakes. It's not really high fantasy because there is magic and it's in a secondary world, but it's not super focused on it. It's kind of character-driven and kind of political, but it doesn't lean either way entirely. So more character-driven and political fantasy, I think, than anything else. So Jasmine Throne certainly gives me Middle Eastern inspiration vibes, or at least setting. And in this story, we are very focused on class and ethnicity-based conflict. There actually great maps in here. We have this whole region, and these are city-states in the surrounding area, and then this sort of smaller focus area is one of them. And we've got a city that we're focused in, and then a magical forest outside. I wanted so much more of this magical forest, but what we're getting is the conflict between two different ethnic groups and the oppression surrounding this spreading disease, the rot. We start out immediately with one of our characters, Priya, helping out a boy who has come down with the rot, and they have to use the sacred wood from the magical forest in order to sort of stave off this magical illness that is very plant-based. It's literally plants growing from their body. And I wanted all of that to be really expanded on, and we kind of get that in the second half. So there's so much superstition surrounding this magical illness. The forest, this magical weird forest, has started misbehaving in ways that we don't really fully come to understand. So I wanted a lot. I wanted, like, let's go into the forest and just spend the whole time there. But this is much more grounded in what's going on with this political conflict and the different sides of perspectives of that. And so I think that was really quite well done, but it doesn't ever sort of take off. We see that there is maybe uprising and rebellion beginning here. We sort of learn about the upper class and the most powerful. So our two main perspectives, Priya is at this very lowest class. She's a housemaid, basically, or a lady's maid. And the second character, who's really the other main character, I would say, is Malini, and she is an exiled royal who's come to this house to exile, basically. And then our third kind of main character-ish, who was probably my favorite, was Bhumika. And Bhumika is this powerful lady of the house who pulled herself up out of the lower class into this powerful position through marriage, and then reached down and pulled Priya up from basically her impoverished life into kind of stability. And so she has this powerful and cold but yet caring visage to the story. And so I just loved her as a very complex character here. And she also has to, balance this power that she has with being kind and also not compromising herself, and not losing that power that she has. So I think we have very dynamic characters like that. For me, we don't really entirely get a single thread of what's going on in this story. It's all about seeing the different sides to this conflict that's going on. So I can't really talk about the plot all that much, other than, they're dealing with all of these superstitious aspects of one side versus the other side, and different perceptions of what can be done to sort of not save the world, but save people from this, either the oppression that they're facing at the hands of the more powerful, or this illness that's spreading wildly and no one knows how to cure or even really deal with in the long term. It seems to be effectively a terminal diagnosis for people that are getting the rot. So they're trying to figure out these two major problems that are facing them. And of course, the two primary ladies, Malini and Priya, get swept up in that. But they also do have a very personal relationship. Priya is sort of taking care of Malini. And I never fully bought into the relationship that they have on page. We're supposed to feel that they have this relationship that's fairly close, but they always seem to mistrust each other. It's not a contentious relationship, that's the word that I want to use, but it's very guarded, and they're often not kind with each other. And so I didn't get the softer aspect of them coming together. So we'll see if that grows as things go on. I do think toward the end of this book, I did start, buying into where they were at in terms of their relationship. This does have sapphic elements, so we definitely are shown that at least one of the characters has always had sort of attraction for other women. And so we do have this build of sapphic yearning through the story. So I think that was done really, really nicely. So overall, I really enjoyed this. I was surprised by how fresh it feels and how well characterized the story is. It's really dynamic that there are so many perspectives, and we are in kind of a centered, very small area, but we're getting what feels like a big story. And so I'm looking forward to book 2 to see if we get a lot more from the elements that I wanted out of it. Like, I'm not usually that person who wants like a heavy magic focused story, but I loved the plant magic of this. It's really interesting. Everything behind it with there is this sort of mythos thing there that we almost sort of start to tap into at the end of this book. So I wanted a lot more of that. And I do think Oleander Sword Book 2 is probably going to have a lot more. So I don't have a ton more to say about this one because, again, it is so character focused. It's very much about the individual dynamics between these characters. And I think that was super well done. Then I read the third in the Magical Bakery series. This is Charms and Chocolate Chips by Bailey Cates. And you can see our lovely familiars here because we have a witchy baker main character with a familiar named Mungo, and she's surrounded by her coven of other witches who all also have animal familiars. Now, as is typical with cozies, this one can pretty much be read on its own. The actual mystery plot totally stands alone, but there is definitely some character growth and progress to everything that's happening. So I do think this is best read as a series in order, but you could definitely pick this up and enjoy it. So in this story, Katie Lightfoot, our lovely baker, is of course always wrapped up in a murder. So she shows up to the conservation group that she volunteers at and finds a dead body. So I don't want to say a ton about the plot of the mystery, of course. I would say there are big elements here of the environment versus corporations. That certainly is a huge thing that's explored here through her advocacy with this wildlife group. So I think that was really well explored and well handled. Otherwise, I think it definitely left me questioning who actually did the crime. We were led in several directions right up to the end, and I didn't actually know who it was. So I think that was great. In terms of the larger plot, so Katie has been estranged from her mother throughout the series. We learned that very early in the book. And I think this book is the first one where we do sort of start to see some progression toward dealing with that, toward possible reconciliation. And that was a pretty big aspect of this story, was discussing that relationship. And so I think that was absolutely great. I think putting that relationship forward as the prominent element here in terms of sort of interpersonal relationships was great. And it sort of replaced the romantic element. So the first two books, she was dealing with kind of a love triangle and romantic situations in terms of the interpersonal relationships. And here that is still going on. There's still a slight hint of romance, but that definitely takes a back seat to this mother-daughter relationship that's sort of being repaired potentially. And so I really enjoyed that aspect. I did not expect that to be in here because these are such lighter books. And I think it was handled in a way that kept it from getting like really dark or too heavy, but was still respectful and appropriate. So I just enjoyed it so much. I thought this was really fun and was easily my favorite in the series so far. So I do intend to continue on with this one. Then, as usual, the massive pile that I am in progress on. So Foster by Claire Keegan. This is teeny tiny and has huge text. So I think I'm going to finish this today, this afternoon, hopefully. Then we have Nona, the ninth, very shiny, by Tamsin Muir. I am really like blazing through this all week. I have just wanted to do nothing but listen to the audiobook and read this, so I'm sort of hybrid reading it. And then my chonker mammoth, we've got Byzantium by Stephen R. Lawhead, and I'm only a little way into that one. And then we have my short stuff, Tales from Gavagans Bar by Sprague de Camp and Fletcher Pratt. And we've got The Best of World SF Volume 2. So that is everything in terms of books that I am reading. My ebook. I'm also reading The Light of Eagle Friend, and I do hope to finish that one this weekend, actually. I need to get that finished because I've got to get to some e-arcs. So I think that's it for reading this week. In terms of watching stuff this week, I only finished one thing, and that was Next in Fashion Season 2. For some odd reason, I thought it had been canceled. And then a new season popped up. So I don't know where that came from, but I'm glad it wasn't canceled because I really love this show. It's a Netflix original series that's a reality competition, kind of along the lines of Project Runway, basically. But it's hosted by Tan France, and I love him from Queer Eye. I think he is just a delightful host to this. I do think I really liked this season, but it felt like things were moving along so much and just constantly going toward the competition that we didn't get to know the competitors as much as we kind of should. So I didn't feel as attached to anybody on the show. I think the winner was really well deserving, so I'm glad with who won. No spoilers, but yeah, it was a great time. And I have started now watching the new season of You. It's weird. It's weird. They have turned it into like a whodunit, sort of like almost an isolated closed circle mystery situation. And it's meta, it's self-referential to mystery works like that. Oddly, because obviously Joe is a book lover. So very weird. Doesn't really fit with the tone of the show so far, but whatever. Whatever. It's still a very compelling show. And I'm wondering how much that follows the books, because I have not read any of the books. That is it for my reading and watching. My week, it was a week for sure. I don't know how in tune with the news you all are, but obviously it was a week of chaos in the financial world. And I work in financial market data, so yeah, it was a week of chaos for me. So that has meant very long days the past really a little over a week. And so when I finished up work, I was just not wanting to do anything except for dive into Nona of the Night, because that has just been consuming me. But you know, I also, as a result, have not been watching very much BookTube, really hardly at all. And I've gotten way behind on comments. I can't remember if I brought it up last week. I do feel like I've been really behind and delayed on responding to comments, both people who were commenting on my videos. I do get back to every comment eventually, but it's been a couple days behind, as well as commenting on other people's videos. So I just want to reassure you, I'm getting back to them. In terms of watching your videos, I'm still watching videos not quite as rapidly as I have been. I'm very behind, trying to keep myself commenting on them, but I definitely do still like every video that I watch if I can. So I'm still watching and liking, just not commenting as much. I also, jumping into the sort of poll that I put up about awards, that was really interesting to see the responses there, because you all surprised me. I really was expecting, with the kind of channel that I am, I mean, I do read very widely, but I certainly feel like I'm much more centered on sci-fi and fantasy than anything else. And I think that the Nebula Awards, which are a prominent sci-fi fantasy award, really didn't get very many responses. Everybody was either like very focused on, no, I don't pay attention to awards, or I do both the Women's Prize and Nebulas. So I thought there was going to be a lot more people who were only focused on the Nebulas. Yeah, so that was an interesting outcome. In terms of other awards, the Oscars happened. I didn't actually watch it, but I did, look at who won. And of course, Everything Everywhere All at Once was the big winner, and well deserved. I loved that movie. That was the only movie I have gone to see in the theaters since the pandemic. And I'm very, very glad I made it to go watch it. It flew by. I would have sat there for a whole other hour, and it's a very long film. But one other thing that came up that was a big, big win in the awards, and that was the Best Original Song. So I personally don't think it's actually that much of a standout song. It's very catchy, but the winner for Best Original Song was Natu Natu, which is from a Bollywood film, where I think it's really Tollywood, but for a Western audience, it's Bollywood. It is about as close as we would, understand. And it's the first somehow from India, which makes no sense to me, because big Bollywood musical numbers are often amazing. They're very catchy, as this one is. How we haven't had a Bollywood winner before, it seems wild to me. So I have now had Natu Natu stuck in my head all week. It's a great song. Like I said, I think it's a little, repetitive. It is very catchy. It doesn't seem like it's a massive standout in terms of Bollywood music, though. But the video is so great. It's historical, and it's a dance-off between these two Indian guys and probably upper-class British colonialist types. This is some sort of like big party or something. And it's just such a great dynamic video, so I haven't watched the movie. It does make me want to watch the movie though that it's from. It's from RRR, I think. It's just this really great action-packed dance number. So definitely check out Natu. I will put that there as, you know, my first recommendation. And then I think that's it for all my stuff in terms of the week. It was, as I said, very busy with work, so I really didn't do a whole lot else. The one other recommendation that I have to check out is not booktube related at all, but it was sort of a cool article that I wanted to share, and that is from Smithsonian Mag. They posted an article about the history of decorating cookies, and it's really cool if you like that sort of medieval and like illuminated manuscript style art. It's glorious, like really detailed, lovely cookies, or biscuits, I guess if you're British. But I had never seen anything like that really, and they talk through all of that. So yeah, I will link that article. Lots of glorious pictures, even if you don't care to read the article. So I think that is it for my week. I've already talked about twice as long as I intended to for this, but we will wrap it up there. Thank you so very much for watching. What are you doing? You watching some birds out that window? Oh, a nice lady. She's invisible. Hello. What are you doing up there? Oh, you giving me a hairdo? Oh, thanks. Thanks. Ow. Ow. Hello. So we are in the kitchen. The oven is warming. It is St. Patty's Day, and I'm a huge fan of soda bread, so I've never made it before. It's very simple, 4 ingredients. So we are going to try it. Alright, I've made 2 tiny test rolls to do a taste test and see how it turns out. One with basil and one without. And then we've got our big loaf pending. We will see how it goes and then decide if I want to split it based on how much it rises, or if I want to just do this as a single loaf. Okay, those are both looking pretty good. Now we make the big rolls. Here goes big loaf number 1. Ta-da! We got loaves.